This video will show you how to create the train body using Autodesk Inventor. There are many different ways that you can create this part successfully, but here's how we're going to be doing it in this video. So we're going to be starting with the extrusion that you can see here, which will be the back part of the body. Then we'll be adding the front onto it, and then we'll add the cutaway onto the back, and then the holes along all of the sides. And then we'll be adding the fillets to all of the sharp edges. And then finally we'll add the top hole, which is where the stack will attach. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started and create a new part. And I'm going to choose the XY plane. So like I said, we're going to be starting by making this back portion right here. So what we need to do to do this is create this rectangle, and then we're going to be extruding it out this way to give it depth. So let's figure out the dimensions for that. So the distance here is actually down here in this part of this drawing. So we see that that is at 2 inches. And then the height, if you notice, is actually given to us here with this radius. So it's given from the center point of this hole, and then it's pointing to the outline of this curved edge along the top. And what that's telling us is from the center point of that circle straight up to this curved edge is 2.35, because this is basically just a big circle that's got a radius of 2.35 inches. Okay, so we're going to just start by making this line that's 2 inches across to represent the width. Okay, so line, and then we're just going to go 2 inches. Okay, next, like we said, the height is dimensioned using this hole here, so let's get a point that we can use to create this circle. So we're going to make a point, and we'll put it halfway across that line, and then we'll put it up 0.375 from the bottom line that we just drew. So find your center line, place your point, and then we're going to dimension it from the bottom line. This is going to be 0.375. Okay, so now that we have that point there, we can just go in and use our circle tool. And again, the circle has a radius of 2.35. If you notice, Autodesk is giving us the diameter right now. So we want to say 2.35 times 2 and hit enter. Okay. So there is our circle. Obviously, we're not going to be using all of this. So what we can do now is using our line tool. You want to start on the left side and go straight up and click where it connects to our circle, and then do the same thing for the right side. Click where it connects. Okay. Now we can use the trim tool to get rid of the extra parts of the circle that we don't need. All right, and then we can click finish and click extrude to give the back part of this some depth. Okay, and if we go back to our drawing, if you go down here to where we can see it, it'll give us the depth of that, so we can see at that line that is 1.75. So we're going to change this to 1.75. Okay, so that's the back part of it done. What we're going to do next is we're going to add on the front to this face. So let's create a new sketch on this face here. Let's go back to our drawing to figure out the dimensions of that. So again, we're going to be drawing this outline, which includes this kind of bottom rectangle, and then we also have a circle here. We're going to just be extruding this out this way. So obviously we know the width is 2. This height of the bottom rectangle is going to be 0.875. So let's go ahead and make that rectangle. So just for the height, just make sure you type in 0.875. Okay, and then now we can go back and we can add our circle. So the circle, it has a radius of 0.75, and then it is 1.375 from its center point to the bottom line. So circle, we'll just start with the, notice it gave us the radius. So again, we need to take its radius, which was again 0.75. Remember that we just need to multiply that by 2. So 0.75 times 2, or you could just type in 1.5 there. And then again, from the center point of the circle to the bottom is 1.375. Okay, so there's our circle like we did last time. Let's trim some of this. We don't need the bottom part of the circle, and we also don't need this middle part of this line. We just need the sides. Okay, so that's the front part of it. Click Finish. Going back to the drawing. So this distance here, notice that everything is dimensioned on the back part of the train, so we know that it has an overall distance of 5.5, but we've already done the back part here, so we've already done 1.75 of that. So we need to do 5.5 minus 1.75 for our total extrusion for this part. Okay, so click Extrude. You can either type that calculation in, so you can do 5.5 or 1.7 minus 1.75 in here, or you can just type 3.75 in there. Either way, you'll get the right answer. So there is our body of this, at least the start of it. Okay, so let's add in the cutaway that will go over here. So we're going to create a sketch on this face. Okay, and if you notice, the cutaway here is a basically kind of a half circle, but that middle point is off to the left of the edge a little bit. So if you notice, it has 0.25 away from the edge. But let's start by making a circle. Again, that circle has a radius of 0.5 or a diameter of 1. Okay, so create a circle and then just put it approximately where you think it's going to be, and then just make it a diameter of 1. All right, and like we pointed out, it's about 0.25 away from the edge. So click the center point and then the back edge. We know this is going to be 0.25. Okay, now we need to figure out the distance from the bottom of it. And if we look here with this line and this line, it is 1.75 inches from the bottom. So let's add in that dimension. Okay. Now that it's positioned correctly, if you look closely at the drawing, you'll notice that the circle doesn't arc back down on these edges on this side, and that's because they've basically taken these straight lines from the highest and lowest points of that circle to make it so they don't curve down like that. So what we need to do is just use our line tool and create horizontal lines so that we don't see the circle begin curving down like on what we have. See how that circle starts to curve down and curve up right there? So what we're going to do is, using our line tool, we're going to start at the middle highest point of our circle, and then we're just going to draw a horizontal line perfectly straight until we hit that edge. And we're going to do the same thing for the bottom. Okay, and then what we can do is use our trim tool again, and we're just trim the parts of the circle that we don't want, so that we just have this part here. Just make sure that these edges are horizontal. So click Finish, and then we can extrude this. This is going to be a cut, so make sure you choose the cut tool, and then instead of distance, it's just going to go all the way through it, so just select all and click OK. Alright, so there's our cutaway. Next, let's start adding the holes. I'm going to start with the holes on the front of it, and then we can do the 4 holes on the sides and then the hole on the back as well. Okay, so we know that we have 3 holes. We have a hole here, here, and then kind of on the top, on the middle. So I'm just going to be using points for these. So I'm just going to place the points, and then we can dimension to them. Okay. All right, so let's start with the left bottom hole here. So we know that from the left edge to the center point of that is going to be 0.375. And then the distance from the bottom to the center point is going to be 0.125. This one over here is also going to be the same. So this is also going to be 0.125. And it's going to be the same distance that we added before too. So this will also be 0.375. Okay, the distance for this from the top, we already know it's in the center, but we got to get the distance from the bottom line up. So that distance is 0.625. Okay, now that we have that, click Finish. And then we are going to use the Hole tool to automatically create these holes. So click Hole. And then going back to the drawing, if you notice this note right here tells us that each one of those holes has a diameter of 0.125, and they also go to a depth of 0.125. So that means for the depth, we'll enter in 0.125, as well as the diameter, we'll enter in 0.125. And then click OK. All right, so there are those. Next, let's add the two on the side here, and then we'll add the two on the side on the other opposing side, and then the one on the back. Okay, so let's make a new sketch on this side. And again, we're going to have a point roughly here and here, and then we'll add dimensions to get those into the right spot. Okay, so starting over here, the back one, so we know the distance from the back line to the center point is 1, and then both of these holes are 1/2 an inch or 0.5 inches from the bottom to their center points. Okay, so this is going to be 0.5, and then from the back line to this point is 1. All right, let's figure out the distance from the back line to that hole, which is 4.5. All right, click Finish, and like we did before, we are going to use the Hole tool to make these. So click Hole, and then if we go back, if you notice, these holes use this hole note right here. So these are going to be threaded holes, and this hole note here will tell us that the diameter is going to be 1/4 of an inch, and they're going to be drilled to a depth of 0.875. Okay, so if we go back to Inventor, we're going to click Tapped Hole, and then make sure you have full depth checked here, and then we are going to just select this so that they go to a depth of 0.875. Okay, the other thing we need to make sure is that this says 1/4 inch, so this should say 0.25 if I can find it. Yeah, so make sure the size says 0.25 and this says 1/4-20 UNC, and then make sure that says 0.875 for the depth. And then click OK. All right, next we're going to rotate to the other side. And then we're going to repeat what we just did. So a point, and then we can kind of use the dimensions of the other side to help us place these. So we don't have to dimension these individually like we did last time. Just find where those holes are. I just realized that this hole is up on the top, so I need to go back and fix that. So I'm going to click Finish. I'm going to go into my previous sketch here, click Edit, and then I just realized that I never dimensioned this one to be 1/2 inch up. So we need to go into this hole and then make sure that this is dimensioned 1/2 inch up like the other one. So that is now placed correctly. Click Finish. That will automatically update, and then I'm going to go back to the sketch that we were just working on here. Okay, so now those look like they're both right. So I'm going to click finish there, and then hole, and then everything else should be automatically selected here. Just checking, make sure it goes to a depth of 0.875, and then it's a quarter-20 UNC threaded. So click OK, and it will automatically make those. All right, let's add the hole on the back. So we're going to create a sketch there, and then if you notice the hole here, again, we kind of used this when we were making the first part of the sketch, but that is 0.375 up from the bottom is where that is placed. And then this hole has a diameter of 0.25. So I'm going to just make a point for this. So again, the dimension for this is 0.375 from the bottom. And then we're going to use the hole tool to create this hole. So this has a diameter of 0.25 and a depth of 0.5. So we're going to change this back to simple hole. And then this is going to a depth of 0.5. And it has a diameter of 0.25. And then click OK. All right, so there's that hole. Next, we need to add in the fillets that go around all of the sharp edges. So we're just going to click fillet, and then we're going to change the radius to just be 0.1. And then we just need to go through here and click every single one of these edges, except for the holes. You're also not going to click that edge right there. Leave that edge alone since that's an interior part. Okay, that looks like all of them. All right, by the time you're done with that, you should get this. The last and final part that we're going to be adding is the hole on the top. What we need to get this is a work plane. We basically just want to put a work plane along the top, and then we're going to be making a hole that's going to be extruded down through this, because we can't put a hole directly on this curved surface. We need a flat work plane to work off of. So I'm going to go up to the origin folder in our model view and then find the work plane that's horizontal, which is this one. Okay, and then I'm going to click plane, offset from plane, and we're going to just make an offset from that. I'm going to go back to our drawing, but basically what we want to do is make this plane move up so that it is through this rectangle part and then on the top of this circle here of our train. So let's try to figure out the height of that. All right, so the total height of the rectangle part is 0.875. Actually, probably the better way to do it is from the center point of the circle. That is 1.375, but then we also know that we have a radius of 0.75 here for that circle. So we can just type in here 1.375, and then we can go ahead and add on that other 0.75 for the radius of that circle, and then click OK. And if you notice that that work plane is now resting on the top of our circle. Okay, so let's make a sketch on that. And then what we're going to be doing is adding a point here where the hole will be located. So I'm going to make a point, and then let's just make it along the center point. So make sure that you're getting the green dot for the center point here, and then just place it a little distance away from the edge of your train. Okay. So let's figure out what that distance is. If you notice here, it is 0.875 inches from the front of the train. So let's add in our dimension. Make sure you're clicking the far edge here, and then your hole, and this is going to be 0.875. Click Finish. And then as we did before, we're going to click Hole. And then this one tells us that this hole has a diameter of 0.5 and a depth of 0.25. So depth of 0.25, diameter of 0.5. Click OK. All right, and then we can go ahead and hide this work plane just by unchecking visibility like that. Okay, so that is the body.